I started to do something with no permission. If I start asking for permissions and this and that, it would take me forever.
This space here was full of trash and shit.
In a place like Cuba, who would dare to break the rules? In the middle of Havana, from inside an abandoned cinema, an artist named Kadir Lopez started lighting up the city, one glowing vintage neon sign at a time. No permits, no government support, just gas, glass, and defiance.
When you put some light in a place where it's dark, all the bad things start to go out. That now is actually a place that became beautiful.
Playing with high voltage and neon on rooftops is dangerous enough, but these were signs from pre-revolution Cuba, symbols the current communist regime probably want forgotten. So stick around and see what happens when Kadir and his team light them up anyway. Cuba, an island nation with global influence on music, art, and culture, was frozen in time by the Cold War. While it boasts some of the world's best health and education stats, daily life on the island is defined by scarcity.
In Cuba, you have to improvise.
How did you make the circuit boards inside?
Los componentes se los sacamos a otros equipos.
When I first visited Havana, I was struck by the ingenuity. In a place where almost nothing is available, people make just about everything. 6 decades of isolation has shaped Cuba into a nation of improvisers. And when I went back to visit in 2020, I was determined to meet as many makers and tinkerers as I could. They were rebuilding tube radios, keeping classic cars running.
Por ejemplo, para ese tipo de cosas, a veces no tenemos las piezas americanas, tenemos que inventar con piezas de las que hay aquí. Por ejemplo, esto
And bringing neon signs from the 1950s back to life.
Here we have the only guy that is able to bend glass in Cuba right now. His name is Guido. He's 76 years old. Works every day, comes to do some bend for us. This is pretty much a small workshop, but it's all you need.
Kadir Lopez is a Cuban artist and preservationist.
Start getting the shape that you want. But first you do some marks. When you have it ready, you're gonna turn it to the table and do the specific shape that you're trying to, and then you're gonna actually push it down with this. And slowly you go marking and creating all the shape that you want. Neon is just getting gas in jail. The jail for the gas is the tube, the glass tube. You're pushing gas inside, you're enclosing them, and you electrify that gas. It's probably the only thing that when you put in prison, in a cage, it lights up.
Kadir's home studio was filled with signs, broken, forgotten, and scavenged from another era.
I create this piece around here as a recreation of the Monopoly board game into everyday people's life. And the Havana Monopoly is no other than a tour on the social or cultural life of Cuba during different time, but it remains somehow the same.
Kadir's signs are part mirror and part mask. They're both a way to remember and a way to imagine. Each piece is built in layers of photographs, paint, and light on top of the original sign. The finished works conjure memories of the past and spark visions for the future.
Give it to me.
I've been always working with memory. So memory has been something that has been pulling me from past, present, future, all those layers of who we are, understanding where we're going through, how much of seduction is in the advertising, how much of that affect life, and how corporation plays the roles of gangsters and control in the contemporary modern world. All of that questions were pushing me to do more and more and be more ironic in what to do and the meaning of each piece. When you as an artist are not pushing the society to think twice, to have doubts, to make questions, it means that you're not doing what you should be doing.
Cuba isn't just isolated by its island geography. It's been shaped by a strict communist regime and has faced decades of a US embargo.
So today still there's a country that is trying to be whole, and a political system that they don't want to release. They don't want to change that concept. They want to keep reading the same book and the same rules they already know, but that worked 60 years ago, not anymore. I mean, the whole world changed, and then Cuba has been skeptical of doing the right step forward to the future.
Because of this, Kadir had to find creative ways to bring in supplies for his mission.
Everything had to come in people's suitcases. So I started to work like an ant colony. There's little animals working together. So like, I realized someone was coming to Havana. I said, will you take a couple of transformers and put it in your suitcase? So I developed a kind of a net that helps to bring the supplies into the island. That took certain time. But suddenly, 6-7 months later, we were having pretty much everything down there.
It was improvisational engineering, but also a bit defiant. There were no permits, no grants, no city approvals, just rooftops, extension cords, and a belief that art could reclaim the night.
The light is a collateral effect for good. It is always doing something better. One day I just look up and I found this second level of the city that remains somehow in the dark. And I use the dark as a metaphor. Not only there is no light, there's no hope, there's nothing going on, there's nothing to do at night, there's nothing good happening around those places at night. All we need to do is illuminate the dark.
Kadir's neon brought whole neighborhoods of Havana back to life, reviving that Broadway glow that had been dark for decades. I recently spoke with documentary photographer, designer, and writer Molly Woodward about the impact of Kadir's work.
There's just something about the glow, the light that it casts on the street below. It can really transform a space. There's a purely aesthetic appeal. I love the way they look. You can see just layers of history. And there's in older signage, there's usually evidence of a hand of a person who made it. So you can imagine somebody laboring over these pieces, and it prompts these stories and these histories that you wouldn't have if they didn't exist.
Kadir didn't stop at neon restoration. He and his team took over a long-abandoned cinema in central Havana, the Rex Theater, and began rebuilding it basically from scratch.
Upstairs, it used to be a hotel, and that sanitary system, all that fell down, and this space here was full of trash and shit.
Kadir, Lisette, and the team transformed the Rex into a sort of museum of neon.
This used to be one of the cinemas that actually lost the ceiling. And the idea here is to bring more signs, like this is the skyline of the city.
This wasn't just about storing old signs, it was about preserving memories.
Many of the people that live around have been living here for more than 60 or 50 years. So they remember the old Havana and how it was. All the people that come inside, the first thing that they say, oh, this used to be the cinema where I went when I was very young, and they have this here, and I saw this movie here. So we are appealing to the memory of people. To see a place that was like a piece of shit, in a way, that now is actually a place that became beautiful.
And in this way, the neon has become more than just advertising. It's a portal to Havana's past and a beacon forward.
For the younger people, they think that is something like magical, because it's nothing inside. You are only seeing a tube, a white tube, an empty tube. And when you put electricity, it becomes with light. So it's some kind of magic.
In the end, every sign Kadir lit was an act of memory, defiance, and hope. And then it happened. Cuba's main source of income, tourism, vanished during the pandemic. The country's own statistics put a population drop of about 10% between 2020 and 2023, with more than 1 million Cubans leaving the island. It's one of the largest waves of migration in the island's history. And the impact has been staggering. In that time, scarcity deepened in a place long defined by it. And the city that Kadir had helped illuminate for a brief time began to dim once again. The Rex Theater went dark. According to Kadir, bureaucracy, lack of funding, and government resistance brought the project to a halt. It was a reminder of the uniquely Cuban challenges he faced, where even as a celebrated artist, the deck felt stacked against him.
Watch your step.
Seeing Kadir in Palm Beach, Florida, 3 years after our shoot in Havana was bittersweet.
And here is pretty much when I spend most of my time here. Just like something I love to have is an open studio space and surrounded by light, which I don't have to use actually artificial light, but it's really welcoming.
How important was the Rex Theater to your mission? How big a blow was that to your operation to lose that space?
That was definitely a knockout. I mean, luckily for a short period of time. I was feeling that all the effort I put in 3 years, it was about to vanish away.
Kadir's mission may have been too ambitious too soon for a city still wrestling with its own shadows. Havana wasn't ready to see its flaws lit up in neon, reminders of a past it had tried to bury. But in every flicker inside those glass tubes, there was also a glimpse of what Havana could be. A city undaunted by its history and unafraid to shine again.
I'm not missing right now today the Rex because I'm sure I'm gonna anchor that again somewhere. This time probably is gonna be a location that I can control. Now we're just moving the concept into everywhere we go. So we're developing project in Los Angeles, or if it's a possibility in New York, we're doing something in Spain in the near future.
You're probably thinking, this guy went all the way to Cuba to shoot a YouTube video? Well, when I stepped off the plane in Havana back in January 2020, I wasn't chasing YouTube content. I was making a documentary called Making It in Cuba. For 10 nonstop days, our crew filmed inside workshops, garages, studios, and kitchens, capturing a culture where creativity isn't a luxury. It's how you survive. There were so many stories to tell, but before we could put it all together, some of the same challenges that Cubans live with every day came for us too. When the pandemic hit, all borders closed. Flights were grounded, and just like that, Making It in Cuba went dark. The television networks that told us that they loved the idea of a TV series stepped back once it became clear that the pandemic shutdown wasn't going to be just a few weeks.
So why should I wait for someone to wake up one morning and say, hey, you have the permission to do this. You're doing something extraordinary. Don't wait for others. Just go for it.
I decided to take Kadir's advice. Don't wait for permission. I started looking around me and saw that there were so many more stories to tell. After realizing that we probably weren't going back to Cuba anytime soon, my creative partner Noah Mark and I pivoted. We partnered with MIT and made a film about inventors called Pathways to Invention. And now I'm building this YouTube channel to keep telling stories about how technology and creativity shape people's lives.
I don't think it should be treated as a future. It's just this present that is taking place is already this future we would think is impossible to reach. It's just right here. But if you don't believe that inside yourself, you won't do anything. You're still waiting for someone to help you out. You're still waiting for that ship that will approach the island and not looking into the beautiful thing you have right here. Just instead of looking over there, what I'm telling everyone is, hey, look what you have right here. Just do it now, and that horizon will come to you, because there's no other way to see it.
Here on Digital Voyage, I'll be exploring even more stories about makers, artists, innovators, and dreamers who remind us that we all have the power in our minds and hands to shape the world. If you want to see more innovative people doing extraordinary things, it would help me tremendously if you'd like this video and subscribe to the channel. Drop a comment below and maybe even send this video to a friend, because just like the lights over Havana, these stories shine brightest when they're shared. Thanks for joining me on this journey. I hope you'll find your way back here for the next Digital Voyage.